Hello, I'm Alex Davies, founder of Wealth Club. Today I'm with Reuben Wilcock of Blackfinch Ventures to talk about the Blackfinch Spring VCT. So tell me about the VCT.
Well, Blackfinch is an investment specialist in the tax-efficient space, and we're launching this new Blackfinch Spring VCT, which is a generalist, tech-enabled VCT that focuses on great tech companies that are in the scale-up, the growth stage of their journey.
So tell me about your background and that of Blackfinch, why you qualified to do this.
So Blackfinch has got a heritage that goes back 25 years. We were launched in 2012, February the 12th, Darwin's birthday, and evolving is a really core to our values, and it's grown to 320 million assets under management since. My background is in academia, in startups and startup acceleration. So I've got a PhD in electronics. I sat at the IP panel for 5 or 6 years at the biggest engineering faculty in the country. I founded 4 startup companies. One of those was exited in 2014. And then I founded a startup accelerator, Future Worlds, where we supported hundreds of entrepreneurs and launched around about 50, 60 startups before I joined Blackfinch when they launched their EIS Portfolios product.
So what sort of companies are you looking to invest in?
So the Spring VCT looks to invest in companies that are in the growth stage of their journey. It's tech-enabled, so it's a generalist tech-enabled fund. We're looking for very strong founders, very motivated and driven teams. And we're really looking for teams that have their hands firmly on the kind of levers of growth. So they understand if they put 10, 20, 30,000 a month into a certain marketing channel, they know what to expect in return. And those are the types of companies that we're looking at.
Do you want to give me some examples of companies that you've invested in through your EIS and to give investors an idea of
absolutely.
what they
So the Spring VCT will not only invest in its own deal flow, slightly later stage, but it will also follow on invest in the EIS portfolios company. So I can talk to you about 3 of those. One of them is a digital product. It's a company called Kinteract, and it's an edtech company, education technology. And they've done really well to create a learning platform, a portable learning record, where if you have children, they go to school, they probably use software or a paper-based system to record learning objectives and learning outcomes. And what Kinteract do is they digitize all of that. So that learning record travels with your child through from nursery through to primary school, secondary school and beyond. And when we invested in that company, it was a great company, great people. They're just on the edge of a really big deal in the Middle East. But we just liked the fact that it was in education, something that everyone can buy into. So that's Kinteract. And then we made a couple more investments. I've got a couple of props here to show you. And this is a very early stage company that we invested in. It's called Tended. So this was pre-revenue when we invested in it. And this is a wearable device that has all kinds of sensors in it and machine learning algorithms that you wear, and it can detect if you take a fall or if you become unresponsive. When we looked at Tended, they were really trying to target consumers, so people going out on bike rides, golf, learning activities. But when we invested in them, we realized that actually it was the B2B opportunity. It was those big companies that have a duty of care to their employees, their factory workers, their lone workers out on the road. And so we made an investment into Tended, and they've done very well. So they've produced now thousands of units from the factory. I get pictures all the time, and they're into doing trials with the likes of Rolls-Royce and Nestle. So that's an earlier stage investment. And then this one is a slightly later stage that we did with the EIS, which is called Kokoon. When we first looked at Kokoon, we thought it was a headphone company. It's not. It's a sleep technology company. So they have a pair of headphones that have biosensors in them that contact onto your ears and movement sensors on the band of the headphone, and they're able to determine sleep state. So they can tell whether you're sleeping, and how well you're relaxed. And what that means is they can feed through their app the right kind of music, the tracks, the content to really help you relax and help you get to sleep. And once you get to sleep, they fade that away and they fade up some sort of white noise so you're not distracted by little sounds around the house. So when we invested in them, they'd done something like 16,000 headset sales, over £4 million worth of sales, and we're really excited to see where they go next. And all 3 of these companies would be good candidates for the follow-on part of the VCT deal flow.
Where are you getting all your investments from?
So we're a little unusual in that we have a dedicated pipeline team in Blackfinch. So these are people that are looking at deal flow all day, every day. We don't just look in London, we look all throughout the UK, we've invested in the EIS, we've invested in Lincoln, in Bristol, in Oxford. They don't just use accelerators, incubators, our own networks, our own incoming deal flow through our email and social media, but we also use a cutting-edge research platform that allows us to proactively go to startups and early-stage companies, in the case of the VCT, and that really brings us a very solid deal flow through from all of these different places.
What should investors expect from your VCT? Are you going to pay a dividend straight away? What about the risks of it? And I guess, how does it differ from other people's?
So there's a few questions there. Yeah. So I think, what do they expect? We're hoping to pay a 5% dividend from 2024.
Okay.
But really what we're doing is we're investing in some very exciting companies, and we're hoping that should lead to good exits, probably special dividends as well. You talked about risk, and what we do with risk is we diversify across two things: stage and sector. So although we're a tech generalist fund, we won't put 10, 15 investments into fintech. We'll spread it across wearables, across SaaS, across marketplace, all across tech. And then also we'll invest, as I was explaining earlier, with the EIS in a similar way. We'll do some that are slightly earlier stage, which go in at lower valuations, higher chance of bigger multiples, but higher risk, and some that are slightly later stage, where they've got revenues, they've got predictable growth, slightly higher valuations, slightly lower returns, but lower risk.
And would you expect a number of these companies to go bust? Is it the sort of pure venture model?
So we all know there are risks in investing in VCTs, in EIS funds, and I think the balance of those risks are obviously the tax reliefs and also the potential for high returns. By taking a portfolio approach and diversifying the way I just described, what we're trying to do is create that balance between the companies that will do better than we expect and the companies that will probably do worse. And so some we do expect won't do particularly well. That's normal. There'll be a kind of bell curve of the ones in the middle that do fairly well, and then there'll be some that do exceptionally well, and those are the ones we're particularly excited about.
And why should someone have this rather than, say, a more mature VCT portfolio where they already know what's in it? And,
it's a really good question. And so I think there's a couple of things really. So the team that we've assembled are all people that have very recently been involved in cutting edge, state-of-the-art tech companies. So that's one thing. So we almost have an unfair advantage on being on the other side of the table for a period of time. But the other thing is that this is like some of those more established products when they first started, where a big exit made a big difference and a big special dividend was paid. Whereas now some of those more established products, which are great products, but if you get one exit, it's not going to make a big difference to the dividends that are paid that year.
And why do companies come to you?
So I think companies come to us for quite a few different reasons. The first one is that we try to really respect and value their time. So what I mean by this is that we don't just read a deck and invite them in to a pitch. What we do is we go through quite a high level of qualification with them. We'll have maybe 3-4 hour long video calls with them before we invite them in. When we invite them in, they know, we make it very clear to them that we're going to spend as long as we need to, and it's often 3-4 hours, diving deep into that company to really understand the company, to be able to press forward. And then the process that we go through beyond that is very optimized. It's very efficient, very rigorous, and they like the speed of that process and the rigor and the transparency of that process. Once we made an investment, we don't put a ventures manager onto the board of their companies. We put what we call an ultra-ned, and these are people from our external network that have been there, done it before. I spoke about Tended earlier on, and we put an ultra-ned, as we call them, that was Seb Chakraborty, who's CTO of the Hive product that you've probably heard of, onto their board. And when we do things like that, that's like a newsworthy, press-worthy thing, and they really benefit from it. And then finally, one of the reasons that we're discovering founders really like us is that we are part of the Amazon Activate program. So most of these digital companies use AWS services, Amazon Web Services, and through that program they can get access to up to $100,000 worth of AWS credit. So it makes our investment much more valuable.
So you've got these NEDs. How involved are they going to be in the business?
So I think what the NEDs are committed to do is go to all the board meetings and do all the pre and the post work around that. But we choose people who are getting involved in the company because they're really interested in the company, and they're cut into our own performance fee. So they understand that they're there for the long run. They're aligned with our shareholders. And so what we actually find in practice, having done quite a few of these with EIS, is that they get involved far beyond just those board meetings. And then we also do all of the usual monitoring. We collect the financials, we collect the KPIs as we go along every single month. And when we do those board meetings, we have a board observer from the team as well.
And if you fast forward a year, how much do you expect is going to be in this VCT? And as a result, how much are you going to invest per company, etc.? Are you going to have enough money? And
yes.
Are you going to have enough money to follow on in the future?
Yeah, so some good questions there. So obviously a lot of that will depend on inflows. We have a very good distribution marketing network at Blackfinch, so we're very confident on those. I think what we're hoping is that we can put an average ticket size of about $1 million into these companies. We'll probably do therefore somewhere between 10, 15, maybe 20 of these companies, and some of them will come from the EIS, will be follow-ons, and some of them will come from their own deal flow. So the nice thing about that is that it's very likely that within just a few months of launch, we'll be making our first investments.
Okay, and you co-investing with other people?
Yeah, we do in the EIS as well. We co-invest with some good names, big names, and it's good because it validates the proposition, and it means that if you can't fill the round, obviously that helps as well. So we will be co-investing.
How are you finding valuations?
Valuations at the moment is a really interesting one. We found recently that there is a pretty over expectation, I'd say, for founders on valuations. We like to go in, and what we do is we effectively project forward the valuation through what we'll expect to be the next rounds, to ultimately reach an exit, because we need to know that we're going to get that return that we want. So we work with companies where they're not unrealistic on valuations, and then obviously we work to get them down where they are.
I want to put money in a VCT this year. Why should I put money with you?
I'll give you 3 reasons. First of all, we have a dedicated pipeline team looking all over the UK, not just London, and using the cutting edge research tools to do that. Number 2 is we have a very efficient process, highly qualified process to deal with that deal flow. We do due diligence on not just the tax status, but really in-depth tech due diligence as well. And number 3 is after we've made the investment, we put those value-add ultra-neds onto the boards of those companies so that they can be as successful as they possibly can.
Reuben Wilcock, Blackfinch Ventures, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.